大家好, it's Leo, and you know what I have for you today. I have another video on language learning. If you are new to the family, we don't have a name, I'm sorry. But if you are new to the family, please hit that subscribe button. That's how you get in the family. And then, if you want, like this video, cut that. That's so awkward. Oh my god, okay, start. Okay. What today is all about is you learning your language by yourself. You can learn it by yourself, or you are taking that class and putting in that work after hours. You know what I'm saying? You're trying to be fluent. But like you're trying to get some little tips and tricks to up that level and really just let that sink into your brain and just be thinking in that language. So I got a few tips for you. Little things to make that little language journey a little smoother and to make your studying more effective. So let's get into it. So first, this is one of my paramount things. Don't translate. Stop translating. If you are using translating in any of your methods, I understand what's going on, because it's like, especially if this is your first language, I understand because you're trying to know what you're saying. But the thing is, you want to feel what you're saying, not necessarily know everything that you're saying. So it's like context is key in these situations. If you can extrapolate from the context, then that does more to help you than it does to know what the English is. Because the most awkward thing is to be in a conversation and you're like it's not a math equation. You shouldn't be trying to figure out how to say the thing right. You might make mistakes, but at least you can get your ideas across, because the ideas are what matters. So translation, nah, because you know how to speak English or whatever your muyu is. So it's like, just cut that if wherever possible. So basically, if you're in the very beginning stages, it's like in your notes, what I do for my notes, and I can show you. In español, you see what I'm saying? It's not me. Are you for real? Where is it at? It's on the table. Okay, here she is. So let me go to a page that I was kind of doing a kind of review of the basics. And so basically, if you can see this, it's like anywhere where I could just figure out if I need to draw a picture, if I need to do whatever. I would rather just be looking at the Spanish, because if I skim this, I would rather skim it in Spanish than to be looking at English for words that we know. If you got 4 words next to each other, what is it? It's probably the seasons. So yeah, so there's just one thing. Minimal. If you know what it means, don't write the English. I understand in classes it's like you have to translate, but in your own personal study, you can cut that, because it's not as helpful for you. Okay, going into that, number 2 is when you're reading your side-by-side vocab list, because I understand at the beginning you need that English, or you need whatever it is, especially when you get into abstract concepts, but don't read your English aloud. So you have your little, let's say for Chinese, you got your Hanzi, you got your pinyin, you got your English. So for Chinese especially, it's like, look at your Hanzi, say your pinyin, but don't go to your English unless you need it. Then it's like, look at your Hanzi, say pinyin, don't look at it. For any other languages, it's like, say that language. You're hearing that language. You're in that zone right now. So there's no need to do English. You know how to speak that, Number 3, also going into that, you got some flashcards, you got some notes, you got something. Switch out those questions. What am I saying? Okay, switch out your English word for a picture of it. I read in these books on language learning theory, it's like when you see an image of it, that's what happens. My English is gone. You are forming a connection in your brain to that picture of the word. So for example, from the book I saw, it's like you've got perro, or if you got xian, I don't speak French, I'm sorry. You got xian, or whatever it is. And then you look up that on Google. You look up dog. You get 2 completely different things. But if you put dog on your thing, it's like dog. Shin is dog. Shin is dog. And that doesn't help you because you're still thinking dog in English. So using a picture, and especially when you put a little Google search and you see what that word actually means, the nuances of that word sometimes, then that's a lot more helpful. So for example, let's just look at what I just had in my hand. Primavera, otoño, verano. I look at that and it's like, okay, that season. I don't need to think summer because that gets in the way. That's just another block in the way of me being able to think otoño when I see autumn. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to. That's a middleman. I don't want a middleman, okay? I don't. So almost for me, I know I got problems. But when I see, like, I don't like people speaking English when they're trying to teach me a language. Not to come off any kind of way, but it's like, sometimes I'm like, just teach me. I just want that language. I want to be stranded. Like, I want to be like floating. Like, I don't know what's going on, but I'm here. So that's how I feel. I'm like, English it's a crutch. It's a crutch and I don't want it. And it would help you if you use images because then you cut out the middleman. So number 4, no matter what strategies you're using, whatever's working for you, once again, whatever's working for you, you can add some music to that. You can add some cultural music from that place, some popular music from that place. And it's like you're sort of being in that space, like in that area as if you're there. One place that I found from Bilingue Blogs, if you know about him, he's this guy who's from Chicago and he speaks fluent, authentic Spanish. And he talked about this site where you can listen to radio stations from around the world. I can leave that in the description. That's been helpful for me for Espanol. For Chinese, you got podcasts everywhere. Korean, anything, like variety shows, whatever it is. But go for something that has that sound aspect, that has the language being spoken, saying whatever it is. Little flashback, how I started Korean was I was doing Duolingo on the bus, my hour commute every day, while listening to the music. So that really primed my brain for a lot of the things I learned on later on. And I definitely have been using that for every other language that I started or am continuing since then. So I definitely recommend that. Yeah, I understand that music, you might be getting up and dancing. So it's all about, what you can handle. I would not suggest for doing them Spanish translations or whatever you have to do. Maybe not the homework, but it's all about what you can handle. I know I can. Only when it's for leisure. So number 5. This mostly applies to people studying by themselves, people who are self-studying according to a curriculum, as you should. But if you don't get a concept, just move on and come back because it will for sure, it's not going anywhere. It's in the language. It will for sure come back. So while I could just hound one thing until I know for sure, like sometimes I feel like we have to do in school, I could just, I know what that is. Keep speaking the language, learning the language, talking with people, then come back and say, oh yeah, that does make sense because I use that all the time. For example, with these things like the subjunctive, passive voice in Korean, demonstratives in Japanese, that's not that bad. But in Chinese, I'm thinking, what is there? Resultative complements in Chinese. It's like when you hear that and when you learn that in school, it's kind of like that grammar name doesn't mean anything to me. So it's like, am I just going to sit here and work on this one thing until I get it? Or should I get a well-rounded, sort of view of it all? So if you're in a class, I know you can't just be like, oh, I'll come back to these later. You have to do what you have to do. But then giving yourself a preview would also be beneficial. Like, I'm going to take Spanish, hopefully 102 or something this semester, but I'm giving myself a quick taste, a quick preview of all these grammar structures before I walk in there. So when I get there, it's kind of like, because you hit that moment in class where it's just all like rushing over your head, right? So if you preview in advance on your own time while you're chilling, then it just makes that, not really a thing. Number 6. While you're doing what works for you, in that meantime, in between, talk to yourself in the language. I cannot stress this enough. It will probably come up like 20 more times in all the videos I do. But please talk to yourself in your language. That is the way to really start thinking in it. I saw something about, I read something about the types of intelligence, analytical intelligence, and a sort of practical intelligence, something like that. There's 3. And analytical intelligence, like what you use for problem solving. So that goes into like learning the grammar structures, things like that. And then this practical intelligence, or whatever it was called, is used for things that you do automatically, like walking, cleaning, things that don't require thought. What was said was to spend 30% of your time learning new structures and using this analytical part, and use 70% of your time in practice, and to really start making it automatic. So you're not thinking in terms of like trying to solve an equation of a sentence, but you're thinking just out of your brain in Spanish, in Japanese, in Russian, in whatever. So I have to suggest, talk to yourself in your languages. I'm a mess. I talk to myself in all of them and really like mix them up. But there's nothing wrong with that. You can really just have fun with it. And one day you say, I'm going to speak Spanish to myself. Another day, speak Japanese. Look at things around and be like, that's a tongue. That's a reloj or whatever. You can just look at stuff and be like, that's what that is. And that will help you so much. This gets down to my final tip, and I live by this. The bottom line is learn like a baby. My friends know I love babies. Okay, I love babies. And what do I love about babies? One of the things I love about babies, they can learn everything. Think about it. When you were a baby, you didn't know anything. Didn't know your right from your left. Didn't know. You just knew who your parents were. You didn't know anything. But through context, through all these crazy processes in our amazing brains, you learned your mother language. You learned math. You learned science. You learned about tadpoles. You learned about random stuff you don't ever use now. But what did you not have? You didn't have a baby language that you already spoke. You didn't have a crutch language. You did that mess from scratch. And what language can you speak the best? That language. So if you want to speak anything else, it's like, let's get back to basics. Like, why wouldn't we just do everything to go back to our roots? That's what I live by. I study anything as if I'm a baby. I've been reincarnated as like a Chinese girl, as a Russian girl or something. Like I'm starting over. So what does that mean for me? Children's books, children's shows, anything that a kid would do. What does that not mean? English translations, looking at books for like business and stuff off the bat, and specialized stuff. No. I start with the basics that anyone would know in that language. And that's so much more fun. What were the best years of my life? Kindergarten, first grade. You know what I'm saying? Make it fun. Make it reminiscent of a good childhood, the childhood that you never had. All the research shows, if you learn like a baby learns, that's really the best way. That's how I've synthesized all I've read. So basically, ask yourself, what would a baby do? What would a baby do in this situation? If I was a baby in Korea, what would I be doing right now in school? So, you can take that with a grain of salt, but that's what I live by, and that's how I think in languages like this in a month or two. Even though it's basic, bare bones, I still can think in Japanese. I can think in these things without needing that middleman of English. So honestly, going by that bottom line, anything else that goes with that bottom line, please add it to your study practices. And I really hope that helps you in some kind of way. I hope that all of this helps you in some way, shape, or form. If anything was good for you, please like this video, help us out, and subscribe for more information for all my language learners out there. And thank you so much for watching. Bye.